pretty soon. So what is the checklist for an international launch? So you'll have to think of.
People think of going to another country is like incorporating in that country. That is not the point. There are multiple issues. So for example, there was a huge question that if we have the name is 𝗏𝗏. This is a brand that we have created keeping India in mind. Now, if we want to launch in Dubai, can we call it this? I don't know. Doesn't sound like that, right? It has to be a different name, because the local people or in that market, people may not identify it with this brand at all. So this is a factor. These things have to be thought of. Also, product has to be local. That has to be also thought of. Now, next, Abhyuday.
A local domain name will need to be blocked. You can think of a country level domain name. You can, so.
And the problem is that if you don't buy it, somebody else will buy it and can exploit it. And your competitors can buy it and cause problems. So you definitely want to buy a local domain name, even if you are doing business from India. Next.
You will want to register your IP in that country, whether it is trademark or patents.
Imagine that you're going to do business in Singapore or Dubai or USA or China, and somebody else owns the trademark that you're going to sell, right? Okay. What will be the situation? It will be very bad, right? People, if they realize that you are selling in that country and you don't have trademark registered, they can go and register the trademark. If patent is not there, they can violate your patent. Big problems can happen, right? So whether you register a company or not, you have to at least register your IP.
You will need to figure out tax laws. You will need to figure out import-export duties. So these trigger in at different points in time. If you are exporting goods and services, import-export duties become important. The tax laws there could be a VAT angle, there could be or a GST angle, depending on what regime that country follows. There would be income tax, corporate tax, all of that. And tax would be for directors, it would be separate. For the company, it would be separate. So you need to figure that out and then choose, okay, what my costing will be. Then how are you going to accept payments and where will it be received? So suppose I have, you have an Indian entity, you have a Dubai entity, and you're selling goods, you're selling products internationally. Now, do you want the money to be received by the Dubai entity and kept there? Will the Dubai entity take the money and keep it there, or will it later give it to the Indian entity? Or do you want the Indian entity to collect the money and then pay a commission to the Dubai entity? Which is the best structure to have? Okay, that is going to be a question. Okay, and a lot of this can also be determined by the local payment gateway related framework in that country for digital payments. Okay, you will also take into account the foreign exchange laws. You will also take into account the tax implications. So 3 things will be taken into account for this purpose. Are you going to incorporate locally, and at what point will it be necessary? So so what is the point, Ramanuj? Any insights on that where it will be important? Have you thought of some criteria?
Yeah. So, it will multiple scenarios are there. We're going to discuss also in today's session also. For example, let's say you are just giving an example, right? So let's say you are, you will be paying. So if you are selling goods from India, you will be subject to Indian income tax, even if you have 0 rated GST. By the way, it might be, it may not be, even if you are selling the service over there, you may not be considered to be doing export of services. So you have to check that. But if you're doing export of services and you don't have to, it's like something which is, you will still be paying income tax in India. Now imagine that you are doing business in Dubai, but you are paying taxes from India. You might decide that it is better to do it in Dubai itself, because in Dubai there is no income tax. So your capital will be preserved, right? Or you may decide that in Singapore they are charging me 10% income tax, so I should incorporate in Singapore rather than in India. So this becomes very important, right? Because it is not in the interest of your business that you are serving the Dubai market, but you are paying income tax in India. Does that make any sense to you? Right? So there may be a logic in, and it may be much more tax efficient. Okay, so to move to a different country and operate there, or operate a international headquarter there, or operate a local subsidiary there, or can be as a group company operating in another country.
So Piyush asked an interesting question on what will be the potential hurdles while selling online products. So some of the things I can think of offhand.
Yeah,
but
also in many countries, by the way, to run an e-commerce business, the laws say that you have to register there before you can
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
You will have to
So to
register
have a
there.
very meaningful scale, any meaningful scale, you have to set it up there. You don't have any option. Go ahead, Abhyuday.
Then they have separate requirements if you are collecting payments there. So you have to see all of that. Okay. 1 second.
By the way, there are a lot of people doing physical businesses like, QSR, quick service restaurants. Indian QSR chains have gone abroad. Many of them, right? It's a very common thing for Indian QSR chains to successfully set up abroad. And QSR, you understand, like quick service restaurant, right? Wow Momo, Dosa Palace. There are many examples. Cafe Coffee Day, right? So for them, it makes a lot of sense to incorporate right from the beginning, right? Because they are physical businesses. Hospital, schools, universities. There are Indian, Manipal. They all have Dubai campuses. Some of them have even Singapore campuses, right? So many Indian universities, Amity, they all have Middle East campuses. So many people are expanding out of India, and there are a lot of physical businesses. They need to be there in physically. Hospitals, right? Indian hospital chains have started expanding outside India. Work hard and so many others. Yeah, Apollo Clinicals.
Then for e-commerce, pharmaceuticals, import-export rules are going to be of critical importance. For pharma, you may have local pharma regulators who will be involved. So you want to sell pharmaceuticals. So for example, the US FDA has office in India because Indian drug manufacturers export to the US and they want to be able to check the facility so that it's in compliance with US framework. Okay, this, so like that you are going to look at key what is the import export rules. Okay, import export rules can be in terms of duties, they could be in terms of labeling requirements, like a country of origin labeling requirement, which was introduced, for example, by India when they said that every product that is imported must have a country of origin marked. Last year that happened. Okay, then there can be other requirements where a local regulator is involved. Okay, then there can be import export like complete block also, prohibition on certain items being imported or exported, or certain permissions being required. Then you'll have to look at this. Then are there any sector specific regulations that will apply to you? Okay, if you, let's say, collect payments in Nepal or Philippines, they have a payments directive that determines that. In every sector there will be other sector specific regulations which you'll have to figure out from before, and you don't need to like brief a local lawyer there. You can pull it out in India, from India itself, provided you know how to do that. Okay, then for manufacturing projects and energy, you will need to look into property laws because you will have to acquire land, right? You will need to get into contracts for construction. There may be EPC contracts. You'll have to look at property laws. You'll have to also look at the tax laws there. Okay, and you'll have to look at contracts. You'll have to see if there are sectoral regulators for each of these. Then there will be rules regarding employment of people. This will be very important. Like you are employing white blue collar laborers. What is the laws for unionism? What is the laws for contracting out work, for employment of this? Yeah, so all these categories will be very important for firing and hiring. For firing, what are the rules? Okay, like in EU, for example, mergers, certain categories of mergers require approval from labor unions also. Okay, that rule is not there in India. So that kind of thing, you will have to be aware of that kind of legal requirements.